Hello everyone, this is Arafellin, you may also know me as KWasn't. And today I'm going to be showing off two glitches that, as far as I can remember, I stumbled across while playing with the turbo controller on the actual console many years ago. Hovering, I may have heard about on the internet. I'm not sure why else I would have tried doing it, but point is, these are things I've known about for a while and basically stumbled across accidentally. I'm using the practice ROM again. I started from a preset that's going to Ganon Tower because the setup I'm going to use is in the Hyrule Castle basement and I need the boots. So this is the most convenient spot to do it. Now first off, before going into the actual glitching, I'll point out part of the way dungeons are set up. There are two layers in every indoor area. They don't all use both, but there are two of them. So, Hyrule Castle, for instance, is pretty obvious. You have this upper layer, which you can go on the top, and there's a lower layer where you can go on the bottom. These two layers are distinct areas of gameplay as far as the game concerned. They have their own collision rules, they have their own information about what the tiles are, and the game keeps track of internally which layer you're on. I'll call them the primary and the secondary layers. Normally you start on the primary. If you go up or down a set of stairs or jump over a thing, you're on the secondary layer, and you transition back the same way. Side note, since this is a thing that's been showing up in some of the videos and I haven't remarked on, you may have noticed the guards are shooting out these balls of something. That's actually an option in the practice ROM under the... is it gameplay? Yes. Visible probes. Basically what's going on for enemies that need to be able to react to seeing you, like guards and Beamos, is they're constantly shooting out these invisible projectiles. The practice ROM just has an option to make them visible. So that's why this weird thing is going on here. Grab the map since that's relevant. And it's not already grabbed because it's a speedrun practice ROM and a speedrunner would not have bothered grabbing it. So, here we are in the basement, we're on the secondary layer. You notice there's this pit extending out into forever, apparently. And, of course, if you walk down the pit, you fall, take damage, and go back to the entrance. That's where the turbo controller part comes in. This is what's called the hovering glitch. If you have the Pegasus boots, and you rapidly tap the A button to start dashing, you can actually go out onto pits and walk on them. Basically what's happening here is when you're charging up for your dash, you hold the A button. There's this brief moment where you're kicking out clouds of dust but not actually moving. That can get convenient even in normal gameplay if you want to bounce off a wall, for example. If you're right next to it and you press A while facing it, you grab on. If you turn to the side, you start charging up, and you can actually change direction while you're charging. So, start to the side, press down, face the wall, bounce off. But because the game never expected you to be out over a pit while dashing, while this charge up's happening, the game doesn't check whether you're on a pit, and you can't fall in. Now the thing is getting there in the first place because you can't move while you're charging the dash. The thing is, there is a 1 frame window after you stop charging a dash where the game also doesn't check for pits, and it does respond to your move inputs. So I currently have the turbo set up to 2 frames on, 1 frame off. 1 frame on, 1 frame off also works. That's the way a normal turbo controller would do it. The point is, as long as you're not holding A for longer than, I think it's 30 frames, which would start you dashing, and you don't let go of it for longer than 1 frame, you can walk out onto pits. Doing this with a turbo controller is not legal in a racing contest. However, if you are able to do this manually, and some people can, that is allowed. Again, the trick is not letting go for A for more than 1 frame, which is kind of tricky to pull off, especially consistently and especially long enough to get anywhere. But if you're using a turbo that's at the right speed, the only thing you have to watch out for is that you don't get hit, which interrupts the dashing and makes you fall, and that you don't grab on anything, which interrupts the dashing and makes you fall. So, yeah, this is hovering. Now, the other thing I stumbled across from here is what we call the exploration glitch, which I only learned relatively recently. But the idea is, exploration glitch is anything that gets you on the wrong layer. So here, this is actually a room from the Desert Palace, because all the indoor maps are all adjacent to each other on one big map. You just can't normally go from one to another. And as you can see, I'm on the secondary layer, but this dungeon, at least a section of it, doesn't actually use the secondary layer, so it's just a big empty space of nothingness that you can walk around in forever. Now, if I pull out the map doesn't know what's going on. And there, we're back in Hyrule Castle and falling for her because this is a mess. Even trying to turbo doesn't help, so I'll just rerun, go back. Should have rerun before, should have rerun sooner because it's going to take a little while. Okay, so we're back in. You go before the transition. We're back in the Desert Palace area. That transition brought us to one of the normal entrances, so the palette is now fixed. But as far as the game goes, we're still in Hyrule Castle, because we came in the Hyrule Castle entrance, never left Hyrule Castle, so things are still in Hyrule Castle, and the map is still very confused. You'll notice the scrolling gets kind of weird here. That's because the way this game is set up, there are what are called supertiles. You can see in the map that you have these big grid lines. Anything within one of these grid cells is a supertile. One of the easiest places to see this in normal gameplay is Tower of Hera. Every floor of the Tower of Hera is one supertile. So some of them are just big rooms. Some of them are split up into smaller rooms. When a supertile is split up into smaller rooms like this is here, the scrolling is artificially locked on the edge of the supertile, or thus the inner tiles. So normally the scrolling doesn't happen unless you go through the doorway. We'll turn off one of the layers so I can see where I am. But by going across the boundary, it kind of forces the issue. I'll keep going this way. And there is a reason I'm continuing to go here, and it's not just because I can. Here. There's one thing, we've reached the boss room of the Desert Palace, but because the boss is already beaten, the prize drops because we haven't gotten the guys from Hyrule Castle where the game still thinks we are. Thing is, Hyrule Castle doesn't have a proper boss, doesn't have a set prize, specifically set prize, so apparently Ether is the default. So yeah, we come in here, we get the boss prize for Hyrule Castle, which is Ether. We can dash to keep going. I think this is on the outskirts of Turtle Rock here. Here we have the Chris Houlihan room. And that's my signal to go to the left. So here we're in another area of, it's kind of Hyrule Castle, it's the sewer escape section. I'll turn off the layer so I can see where I'm going. If I turn it back on, you can actually see the edge of Link's shield sticking through the wall here. Now if I were to keep pushing to the left, you'd jump down and be back inbounds. Rewind to get back up on the top. Okay, incidentally, exploration glitch is an out-of-bounds glitch, which is considered major and is extremely illegal in racing contexts and speedrunning, except in rule sets that specifically allow this, and pretty much any glitch in that case. So here, we're back in another section of Hyrule Castle. I'm not sure why this is so far away from the rest of it. Map is still highly confused because we didn't get here in the normal way of getting here. Keep going to the left, and what's this? Oh, hi Ganon. He gives this little intro speech, but because of the whole being on the wrong layer thing, we're actually under the floor and can't interact with him at all. Two interesting things I'll show off here. If you come down here, you'll notice there is a second room that is off camera normally, has a torch of its own. This torch is always lit, even when the other torches go out. That's why the room doesn't go completely dark, even when the torches go out. It just goes kind of dark, like in a dark room where you have 1 or 2 torches lit, because that's exactly what's happening. The other weird thing is, okay, so the entire underworld indoor dungeon thing is on one big map. Normally, if you go off the edge of the big map, you wrap around to the other side. However, there is a hard-coded exception here. If you go north from Ganon's room, which normally is because you beat him, you end up at the ending sequence. So this is how, in a sense, you can beat the game in under 5 minutes. You basically activate the exploration glitch, rush to Ganon's room, go north, you're at the ending. That's not what normally we consider a legitimate thing, but if you're doing, say, glitches allowed speedrun, okay, go for it. That's also not normally the way you get into the exploration glitch. There are other ways that are potentially not necessarily easier, especially have a controller, but they're quicker, more straightforward. I think the main one is you basically just do a jump off from a high to low area in a dungeon and save and quit while you're in midair. I think that's enough to confuse the game into sticking on their own layer. There's other things you can do, sometimes even accidentally. Racers have been known to accidentally activate exploration glitch, and because that's allowed, that's not allowed, they have to end up forfeiting. Yeah. So, yeah, that's all I can think of for today. So, thanks for watching, and let's see what I can think of for next time.